My sister laughed when I won the award. Not a soft laugh. Not an awkward one. She tilted her head, looked at me like I was trying too hard, and said, "That thing doesn't mean anything." 2 hours later, she took my parents out to dinner without me. That was the night I realized she had already decided who mattered in this family. And it wasn't me. Stick with me. I stood in my parents' living room holding the small glass award in both hands. It wasn't huge or shiny, but it meant everything to me. I had worked years for it. Late nights. Missed weekends. Saying no to things I wanted just to stay focused. My mom smiled politely. My dad nodded and said, "That's nice, Marissa." Then Danielle laughed. She didn't even try to hide it. She leaned back on the couch, crossed her arms, and said it like a joke meant only for herself. "You're acting like you won something big. That award doesn't really mean anything." The room went quiet. My face burned. I waited for someone to say something. Anyone. No one did. A little later, Danielle grabbed her purse and car keys. She smiled sweetly and said, "I'm taking Mom and Dad out to dinner. My treat. We'll celebrate properly." She didn't look at me when she said it. I stood there, frozen, as my parents grabbed their coats. My mom told me, "We'll bring you leftovers." Like that made it better. The door closed behind them. I went back to my apartment alone. I placed the award on my kitchen table, still in its box. I didn't even open it. I just sat there staring at it, hearing Danielle's voice over and over in my head. This wasn't new. It just felt clearer now. Every birthday where hers mattered more. Every family decision made without asking me. Every time I was told to be patient, while she was praised for doing less. That dinner wasn't about food. It was about choosing sides. And that night, sitting in silence with my achievement still unopened, I finally understood something painful but true. My sister didn't just look down on me. She wanted me invisible. And my parents had been helping her do it for years. Growing up, I never thought my parents loved Danielle more than me. They never said it. They never treated me badly on purpose. It was quieter than that. Danielle was loud, funny, and confident. She could walk into a room and pull all the attention toward her without trying. When she talked, people listened. When she joked, everyone laughed. My parents lit up around her. I was different. I was quiet. I listened more than I spoke. I worked hard and kept things to myself. When I achieved something, I didn't announce it. I waited for someone to notice. Most of the time, no one did. If Danielle got a small win, it became a family moment. Photos were taken. Stories were told again and again. If I succeeded, it was treated like something expected. My mom would say, "That's good, honey," and move on. My dad would nod and remind me to stay humble. I learned early that being invisible was safer than asking for space. As adults, nothing really changed. Danielle always spoke for the family, even when no one asked her to. She decided where holidays would be held. She told relatives what we were all thinking. My parents followed her lead without realizing they were doing it. That dinner the night of my award suddenly made sense. It wasn't a last-minute idea. Danielle didn't wake up and decide to be generous. She had watched the room. She saw me standing there with something that belonged to me alone. And she couldn't allow that moment to stay mine. So she redirected it. By taking our parents out, she rewrote the night. Later, when people asked, my parents talked about the restaurant, the food, Danielle's kindness. My award barely came up. That's when I understood something new. Danielle didn't just want attention. She wanted control. She wanted to be the daughter who shaped the story, the successful one, the generous one, the reliable one. And for that to work, I had to stay small, quiet, easy to overlook. I wasn't jealous of her charm anymore. I was starting to see it for what it was, a tool. And the worst part wasn't that she used it. It was that my parents let her, because it was easier than noticing what they were losing. Over the next few weeks, something started to change. It wasn't loud. No one argued. No doors slammed. That almost made it worse. It began with small comments. My mom would say things like, "Danielle told us you've been really stressed lately." I would pause and say, "I never said that." She'd wave it off. "Well, that's what she mentioned." Then my dad said one night, "We're worried you're not happy with your job." I asked him why he thought that. He shrugged. "Danielle said you've been frustrated." I hadn't said that either. At first, I thought it was confusion. Maybe Danielle misunderstood me. Maybe my parents mixed things up. But it kept happening. Again and again. Each time, my words were slightly twisted. My silence was filled in for me. If I didn't attend a family dinner, it became Marissa is pulling away. If I disagreed about something small, it turned into she's very sensitive lately. Danielle never confronted me directly. She smiled. She hugged me. She asked how work was going. But behind my back, she was shaping a version of me that didn't exist. A fragile version. A difficult one. I noticed how my parents looked at me differently. With concern. With caution. Like they were choosing their words around me, afraid I might break. When I tried to explain myself, it only made things worse. You're overthinking, my mom said gently. Danielle is just worried about you, my dad added. Worried. That word followed me everywhere. Suddenly, I wasn't the quiet daughter anymore. I was the emotional one. The one who needed managing. Meanwhile, Danielle became the calm voice of reason. The daughter who kept everyone together. I realized then that she wasn't attacking me. She was replacing me. She spoke first, so I didn't have to. She explained my feelings before I could. She turned my independence into distance, my quiet into instability, my boundaries into disrespect. And the scariest part was how clean it looked. No lies that could be proven. No cruelty that could be pointed out. Just gentle concern and careful wording that slowly changed how people saw me. One night, lying in bed, I felt something settle heavy in my chest. This wasn't misunderstanding. This was a rewrite. Danielle was editing me out of my own story, sentence by sentence, while smiling the whole time. A few weeks later, my mom asked if I could come over and help sort some paperwork. She said it was boring stuff and Danielle was too busy. I agreed, thinking it might be nice to feel useful again. We sat at the dining table with stacks of folders. Bills. Insurance papers. Old forms my parents never threw away. My mom went to make tea, and I kept organizing. That's when I saw a folder with Danielle's handwriting on it. It wasn't hidden. It wasn't locked. Just placed neatly between other files, like it belonged there. Inside were copies of documents I had never seen before. Notes attached with sticky paper. My sister's handwriting again. Clean. Confident. I read slowly. There were forms that listed Danielle as the main contact for future financial decisions. Emergency instructions. Planning notes written in her voice, not my parents'. Little reminders like Danielle will handle this, and ask Danielle first. Nothing illegal. Nothing dramatic. But nothing accidental either. My hands started to shake. I flipped through more pages and realized something worse. My name wasn't mentioned anywhere. Not as a backup. Not as a second option. I didn't exist in these plans at all. It felt like standing in a room where my life had already ended and no one bothered to tell me. When my mom came back, she chatted casually about the weather. I didn't say anything. I just slid the papers back exactly where they were. Later, my dad said, Danielle's good with this kind of thing. She likes to stay organized. I nodded, even though my chest felt tight. That was when it hit me. This wasn't about money. It wasn't about inheritance or control of accounts. It was about the future my sister had already designed. One where she stood at the center, guiding decisions, speaking for everyone. And I wasn't included. She hadn't pushed me out loudly. She hadn't argued or demanded anything. She had simply moved forward without me, assuming I didn't need a place. That realization hurt more than the laugh. More than the dinner. More than every small insult before it. Because it meant something final. Danielle didn't see me as competition. She saw me as temporary. And for the first time, I understood that if I stayed silent much longer, I wouldn't just be ignored. I would be erased. I didn't plan to find out the truth about that dinner. It came out by accident, the way painful things usually do. My aunt called me one afternoon just to talk. We weren't close, but she had always been kind. In the middle of the call, she said, "Your mom seemed worried about you after that dinner." My stomach dropped. Worried about what? There was a pause. A small one. The kind people make when they realize they might have said too much. She sighed and said, Danielle was talking a lot that night. I stayed quiet and let her continue. She told me Danielle didn't just take them out to eat. She talked the entire time. About my job. About how stressful my work must be. About how I put too much pressure on myself, and how she feared I might burn out. Then she said the part that hurt the most. Danielle told them I wasn't good under pressure. She said my career was unstable. That awards don't mean security. That I might need support in the future. My parents didn't argue. They nodded. They listened. They asked questions. No one said, "That's not true." No one said, "You're being unfair." They just accepted it. When I hung up the phone, I sat in silence for a long time. Everything suddenly clicked into place. The worried looks, the careful voices, the way they spoke to me like I was fragile. It wasn't concern that had grown in them. It was doubt, and it had been planted carefully, one sentence at a time, over dinner. I wanted to scream. I wanted to call my parents and explain everything. I wanted to defend myself like I had always done. But something stopped me. For years, I had been explaining, softening myself, proving I was okay, proving I wasn't dramatic or weak or unstable. And none of it had ever changed anything. So this time, I didn't argue. I didn't confront Danielle. I didn't ask my parents why they believed her. I started watching instead. I listened more than I spoke. I noticed how Danielle always spoke first, how she framed concern as kindness, how she looked calm while quietly tearing me down. That dinner wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a strategy. And for the first time, I understood that explaining myself wasn't protecting me anymore. It was helping her. After that, I stopped reacting. I didn't argue with Danielle. I didn't try to clear my name with my parents. I didn't ask anyone to understand me anymore. I learned something important. Every time I defended myself, I gave my sister more chances to twist my words. So I went quiet in a different way. I started paying attention. When my parents repeated something Danielle said I felt, I wrote it down later. When she sent kind messages that didn't match what she told others, I saved them. I kept emails, texts, dates, small details that didn't seem important on their own. I wasn't collecting revenge. I was collecting truth. At the same time, I focused on my life outside the family. The award Danielle laughed at didn't stop meaning something just because she mocked it. It opened doors I didn't even know existed. People at work noticed me more. I was invited to meetings I had never been part of before. My ideas were taken seriously. For the first time, I felt steady, not because my family approved, but because I finally trusted myself. I didn't tell anyone at home about these changes. When my mom asked how work was going, I said, "It's fine." When my dad asked if I was stressed, I smiled and said, "I'm okay." Danielle kept underestimating me. She still spoke over me at gatherings. Still acted like the responsible one. Still believed I was behind her. I let her think that. There was peace in not correcting her. While she was busy managing how the family saw me, I was building something real. Quietly, carefully, on my own terms. I noticed something else too. Without my reactions, her stories didn't land as strongly. She needed conflict to make her concern believable. Without it, she sounded dramatic, slightly off. My parents still leaned toward her, but not as confidently. Questions started forming behind their eyes. I didn't rush the moment. I learned that strength didn't have to be loud. It didn't need approval. It just needed patience. Every night, I looked at the award on my shelf. I had finally taken it out of the box. It wasn't proof for anyone else anymore. It was a reminder for me. I wasn't fragile. I wasn't unstable. I wasn't invisible. I was just underestimated. And for once, that worked in my favor. The family gathering was supposed to be simple. A birthday dinner for a cousin, held at a rented hall with long tables and too much noise. Everyone was there. Aunts, uncles, people who hadn't seen me in years. Danielle arrived like she always did, confident, laughing, greeting everyone like a host. She told stories about work, about how busy she was, about how much responsibility she carried. My parents stood beside her, smiling proudly. I stayed quiet. I always did. At one point, the cousin being celebrated asked everyone to sit down. Someone from her workplace had come to give a short speech. It wasn't about me, so I didn't pay much attention at first. Then I heard my name. "Marissa Caldwell," the woman said clearly. My heart skipped. She explained that she had worked with me recently and wanted to publicly recognize a major professional milestone I had achieved. A project that had gained serious attention and brought in opportunities far beyond the small award my sister had mocked months earlier. The room went still. People turned to look at me. I felt heat rush to my face as quiet clapping started. Then more joined. Someone asked what it was about. The woman explained again, this time in simpler words. The achievement sounded big when said out loud. Bigger than I ever made it seem. I stood slowly, unsure what to do. I wasn't prepared. I hadn't planned this. I hadn't told my family because I didn't want to fight for space again. But now the space was already there. I glanced at my parents. My mom looked confused. My dad looked stunned. Then I looked at Danielle. She wasn't angry. She was shaken. Her smile stayed on her face, but it didn't reach her eyes. She blinked too fast. Her posture stiffened. For the first time, she didn't know what to say. People started congratulating me, asking questions, listening. Danielle had nothing to add. That was new. On the drive home later, my parents were quiet. Not proud. Not upset. Just thinking. For the first time, they had seen me without Danielle explaining me first. And once they saw it, they couldn't unsee it. I didn't feel victorious. I felt steady. Because I hadn't asked to be seen. I had simply become impossible to ignore. A few days after the family event, Danielle asked me to meet her alone. She said she wanted coffee. Her tone sounded calm, almost friendly, but I felt something tight in my chest the moment I agreed. We sat across from each other in a quiet cafe. For a minute, she talked like nothing was wrong. Small things. Weather. Work. Then she leaned back in her chair and looked straight at me. You didn't have to do that, she said. I blinked. Do what? She laughed softly, but there was no warmth in it. Act like that. Let everyone think you're suddenly some big success. I told her I hadn't planned anything. That it wasn't my idea. She didn't care. You've changed, she said. You used to know your place. That word hit me hard. My place. She went on, her voice low but sharp. She said I was always the quiet one, the background one. That I was never meant to stand out. That it made people uncomfortable when I did. You were fine before, she said. When you stayed in your lane. I stared at her, stunned. She wasn't angry that I embarrassed her. She was afraid. She told me she had spent years keeping things balanced. Making sure our parents didn't worry. Making sure the family looked stable. And now, because of me, things felt out of control. You don't handle pressure well, she said again, like she had rehearsed it. You shouldn't be taking on things that big. I finally understood then. She never thought I was weak. She thought I was dangerous. Not because I failed, but because I could succeed without her. All those years of quiet comments. The concern. The rewriting. It wasn't protection. It was prevention. She needed me smaller, so she could stay important. When I didn't argue back, she frowned. She expected tears. Defensiveness. An apology. Instead, I calmly said, You don't get to decide what I can handle. Her face changed. Just for a second. The mask cracked. That's not what I meant, she said quickly. But it was. I stood up and told her I had to go. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't accuse her. I didn't explain myself. As I walked away, I felt something lift inside me. She never hated my weakness. She hated my potential. And now that I saw it clearly, she couldn't control me anymore. I didn't plan a big talk with my parents. There was no dramatic moment. No argument waiting to happen. It came during an ordinary visit when we were sitting in the living room after dinner. Danielle wasn't there. That mattered. My mom was folding napkins. My dad was watching the news with the volume low. Everything felt calm, which somehow made my hands shake more. I said, I need to tell you something. And I'm not angry. They both looked at me, surprised. I told them I wasn't there to blame anyone. I wasn't asking them to choose sides. I just needed to say things clearly once, without emotion. So I did. I explained how often they repeated things Danielle said about me that I had never said myself. I gave examples. Specific ones. Dates. Exact phrases. I told them about the paperwork I found, not accusing, just stating what it showed. That every future plan listed Danielle, and not me. I told them what was said at that dinner. Not with anger. Just facts. My parents didn't interrupt. That silence said more than words ever could. My mom's hands stopped moving. My dad turned off the TV. I wasn't dramatic. I didn't cry. I didn't raise my voice. I simply said, when you listen to her speak for me, you stop hearing me. My mom whispered, we didn't mean to. I nodded. I know. That was the hardest part. They hadn't done it out of cruelty. They had done it out of comfort. It was easier to let Danielle lead. Easier to accept her explanations. Easier than asking me directly. But ease has consequences. I told them I wasn't asking for apologies. I just needed them to understand that silence can hurt as much as words. My dad rubbed his face and said quietly, we should have noticed. Danielle wasn't there to interrupt. To soften things. To redirect. Without her voice filling the room, the truth sat heavy between us. They saw it. And once they did, they couldn't unsee their part in it. I didn't feel powerful in that moment. I felt calm. Because I wasn't speaking to win. I was speaking to end something. And for the first time, I knew I had said everything I needed to say, without losing myself to be heard. Nothing dramatic happened after that talk. No shouting. No big apologies. Life just shifted. My parents started calling me directly instead of asking Danielle first. Sometimes they caught themselves mid-sentence and corrected it. It felt awkward but real. Danielle noticed the change right away. She wasn't in charge anymore. She wasn't the voice explaining everyone's feelings. When she tried to step in, my parents gently said, "We'll ask Marissa ourselves." That one sentence changed everything. She grew quieter after that. Not kinder. Just unsure. The attention she was used to wasn't automatic anymore. I didn't celebrate it. I also didn't chase anyone for closeness. I slowly stopped filling the role I had lived in for years. The easy daughter, the one who adjusted, the one who waited. I stopped showing up just to be tolerated. I stopped shrinking to keep peace. Some weekends, I didn't attend family dinners. Not out of anger. Just because I didn't want to. No one punished me for it. No one chased me either. And that was okay. I spent more time alone, but it felt different now. My apartment felt quiet instead of empty. Peaceful instead of lonely. One night, I sat at my small kitchen table with the award in front of me. The same one I had left unopened weeks ago. I ran my fingers over the glass and finally smiled. Back then, I sat alone because I wasn't invited. Now, I was alone because I chose myself. The family didn't fall apart. It just rearranged. Danielle wasn't at the center anymore. My parents were learning slowly how to see both daughters, not just the loud one. And me? I didn't need to be seen by everyone anymore. I had learned something important through all of it. Revenge doesn't always come with raised voices or broken ties. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it looks like stepping back instead of fighting forward. Sometimes the win is walking away without bitterness and realizing you no longer need their approval to feel whole. That night, I turned off the lights, left the award on the table, and went to bed calm. Not because things were perfect, but because for the first time in my life, I wasn't waiting for anyone to choose me. I already had. If this story touched you, take a moment to like, share, and subscribe. It's a reminder that quiet boundaries are powerful, and self-respect matters more than approval. Learning when to step back can protect your peace and mental health. Choose growth, not silence that hurts you.